Ever wondered why the design of your research matters so much? Let's take a deep dive into the world of quantitative research design. It's the backbone of any research project, providing a strategic roadmap from start to finish. Think of it like a blueprint for a house, detailing every step to ensure consistency, reliability, and validity. Without this blueprint, the research process can easily veer off course. So, what exactly is a research design? It's an overarching plan that outlines how to conduct your research. It decides which data you will collect and how you will collect it, how to analyze this data, and what conclusions you can draw from it. In the realm of quantitative research, there are 4 common designs: descriptive, correlational, experimental, and quasi-experimental. Each has its own unique focus, method, strengths, and limitations. Without a well-thought-out research design, the reliability and validity of your research could be compromised. First, we have the descriptive research design. This approach is akin to a fine artist meticulously detailing a scene. It's all about capturing existing conditions, behaviors, or characteristics with precision. The method employed here is systematic information gathering. It's like being a detective, but instead of manipulating variables, you're collecting data and observing. Visualize this. You're conducting a survey to assess phenomena like smartphone addiction among adolescents. Your goal is to understand the who, what, where, and when of this condition. You're not trying to change any variables or induce any behaviors. You're just collecting data on the current scenario. This is a classic example of descriptive research design in action. Now let's talk about its strengths. Descriptive research design is your go-to when you need answers to questions like, what is the prevalence of smartphone addiction among teenagers? Or, when during the day are teenagers most likely to be on their phones? It's ideal for addressing what, who, where, and when type research questions. But as with everything, there are limitations. Picture this. You've gathered all this data about smartphone usage, but you want to know more. You want to know why teenagers are so addicted to their phones. You want to understand the relationship between smartphone addiction and academic performance. Unfortunately, the descriptive research design falls short here. It's like having a detailed map of a city. It can show you where everything is, but it can't tell you why a particular cafe is more popular than the others, or why certain neighborhoods have higher crime rates. Similarly, descriptive research design does not explore relationships between variables or underlying causes. It gives you the what, but not the why. To sum up, descriptive research design is a powerful tool for capturing a snapshot of a situation or condition. It provides you with valuable data about the existing state of affairs. However, if you're looking to delve deeper into cause and effect relationships, you'll need to employ a different research design. Although descriptive research design is excellent for gathering information, it does not explore relationships between variables or underlying causes. Next, we delve into the correlational research design. This research design plays a unique role in the realm of quantitative studies. It's all about connections, relationships, and associations. Think of it as the detective of research designs, seeking out links between variables. Here's the focus. Correlational research design aims to identify and measure the relationships between 2 or more variables. The key here is that there's no manipulation of these variables. We're just observing and measuring them as they naturally occur. So how do we go about this? The method involves gathering data on the variables of interest and using statistical tests to assess the strength and direction of the relationships. These tests can reveal positive correlations, where variables increase or decrease together, or negative correlations, where one variable increases as the other decreases. Let's take an example to illustrate this. A researcher might be interested in studying the relationship between exercise frequency and health. They could collect data on how often individuals exercise and various health indicators like blood pressure or cholesterol levels. The correlational research design would then allow them to explore if a relationship exists between these variables. Now onto the strengths and limitations. Correlational research design is particularly suitable for exploring potential relationships where variables cannot be manipulated. It provides valuable insights into patterns and trends within datasets and can form the basis for further experimental research. However, it's important to remember its limitations. The most significant one is that it cannot establish causality. Yes, it can tell us that 2 variables are related, but it can't tell us if one variable causes changes in the other. This is summed up in the phrase, "Correlation does not imply causation." So while it may seem like your daily coffee intake is directly causing your high productivity levels, it's essential to remember that other variables could be at play. Remember, while correlational research design is powerful for identifying relationships, it cannot establish causality. So use it wisely and always consider other variables that might be influencing your results. Moving on, let's explore the experimental research design. The heart of this approach lies in its aim to determine causal relationships between variables. It's like a scientific detective, meticulously manipulating one variable, known as the independent variable, and observing its effect on others, known as dependent variables. Imagine you're conducting a study to test the impact of different fertilizers on plant growth. The type of fertilizer used would be your independent variable, while the growth of the plants would be the dependent variable. In this design, it's all about control. You carefully manipulate the independent variable and monitor its effect on the dependent variable, while keeping all other variables constant. This allows us to infer that any changes observed in the dependent variable are due to the manipulation of the independent variable, and not something else. The strength of the experimental research design is its power for identifying causal relationships and directionality between variables. If you're looking to answer the why and how of a phenomenon, this design could be your best bet. However, like all good detectives, experimental research design has its challenges. One of the main difficulties lies in controlling all variables. In real-world research, it's nearly impossible to control every single variable that could potentially influence your results. This is why researchers often conduct experiments in controlled environments, such as laboratories. Another challenge involves ethical considerations, especially when it comes to random assignment. For instance, it would be unethical to purposely expose a group of people to harmful conditions just to observe the effects. Lastly, the potential for smaller sample sizes can affect the results. It's often more difficult and time-consuming to gather large sample sizes for experimental studies, which can limit the generalizability of the findings. While experimental research design is potent for identifying causal relationships, controlling all variables and ethical considerations can be challenging. Remember, every research design has its strengths and challenges. The key lies in choosing the one that best fits your research question and the resources at your disposal. Lastly, we have the quasi-experimental research design. This design comes into play when we're investigating causal relationships, but the random assignment of participants isn't feasible or ethical. This is often the case in real-world settings, where we can't control everyone's actions or the conditions they operate in. Here's how it works. The methodology of a quasi-experimental design hinges on existing groups or conditions. These pre-existing groups form the basis for comparison. You're not creating new groups or manipulating variables, you're observing and comparing what's already there. It's like a detective piecing together a puzzle with the pieces they have on hand, not the pieces they wish they had. Let's look at an example. Suppose we want to study the effects of different teaching methods on student achievement. However, assigning students randomly to different teaching methods may not be feasible or ethical. In this case, we might compare existing classes taught using different methods. This scenario is a perfect fit for a quasi-experimental design. Now, on to the strengths. Quasi-experimental designs are valuable in contexts where true experimental designs simply aren't possible. They allow us to examine potential causal relationships in more naturalistic, real-world conditions. However, like all research designs, quasi-experimental ones have their limitations. The main challenge comes in confidently establishing causality. Without random assignment, we increase the risk of confounding variables. These are variables that we haven't accounted for, which can influence our results and make it harder to draw firm conclusions. It's a bit like trying to hear a quiet melody amidst a symphony. It's there, but other sounds can drown it out. In summary, the quasi-experimental research design is a robust tool in our research arsenal, especially when we can't apply a true experimental design. It's not without its challenges, but it provides valuable insights in the right conditions. Quasi-experimental research design is valuable when experimental designs are not feasible, but establishing causality can be a challenge. Now that we've explored the 4 common research designs, it's clear that each has its place. Descriptive research is all about painting a picture of the current situation. Correlational research explores potential relationships. Experimental research seeks to identify causal relationships. And quasi-experimental research is a valuable tool when random assignment isn't possible. Understanding these designs is like having a compass in the wilderness of research. It guides your steps, ensuring that you don't lose your way, and that your journey is both reliable and valid. Remember, each design has its strengths and limitations, and the choice should align with the nature of your research question and the context of your study. They are not one size fits all, and choosing the right design is more art than science. So, as you embark on your research journey, remember the importance of a well-crafted research design. Remember, your choice of research design will significantly impact the success of your research. Choose wisely.